my channel. This video is actually a really highly requested video, which took me as a surprise because I thought cupcakes were going out of fashion, but apparently not. And little news for you, I use the same cake mix as my sponge cakes. There you go, I've said it. I don't crumb the dry ingredients first, I don't add milk or yogurt or anything. It's the same sponge recipe and it works every time. And people always ask me, how come your cakes and cupcakes are so flat? It's this recipe. So if you haven't watched it already, or if you're new to my channel, welcome. You can head to this link, I believe, and watch my sponge cake recipe. But don't tune off yet, because I do have a few tips and tricks to how I decorate and prepare the cupcakes, so don't go anywhere. But once you've watched my sponge cake recipe, it will look like this. So the only slight difference I do with my cupcake batter is that I really watch the butter melt. You don't want it to go really hot because it does something to the batter and it doesn't separate it, it needs to be slightly thicker. So if you let the butter just melt, if anything, stir it while it's melting so it kind of melts quicker, the batter's slightly thicker. If that doesn't make any sense, then ignore it, because it still works if the butter's melted like normal. That just makes more sense in my head. Anyway, I'm going to start off with mini cupcakes, because people actually have a lot of issues with them. Firstly, you need the right cupcake tray and cases. I got this one from Lakeland, which is, if you're from abroad, it's a shop we have in England, and they also provide cupcake cases. Now, I've also bought some other mini cupcake cases, and you can see the size difference. If they're too small, your batter's gonna really overcook. So you want more cake, essentially. So these fit exactly in the tray. Also, what Lakeland cleverly supply is a mini ice cream scoop. They all come in different sizes. I don't know what this one is, sorry, that's really unhelpful, but I'll put as many links below as possible. But when it comes to the larger scoop, which I'll use in a minute, they come in different sizes. So it may be a case of just like seeing what size is best for your cupcake size. So all you do is scoop out some cupcake batter and scoop it in the case. And you've probably seen this 100 times, but it really is the best way to not only keep it nice and clean, but every single one is going to be really even. So even when I bring the scoop out, I'm kind of evening off the batter by the side of the pan. And you'll see, the reason why I started with the mini cupcakes is to show you how far the batter goes. So I've got one batch, so it's a 250-gram batch. If you've seen my sponge cake recipe, you'll understand. So it's the same as I use for a 6-inch cake. And you'll be able to see how many mini cupcakes you get out of this batter. So you can see I've done 48 mini cupcakes, and I still have about half of the batter left over. So the mini cupcakes really go far, but I'll show you the larger cupcakes anyway. So I actually use muffin cases. You can get fairy cases, which are slightly smaller, but again, I think the beauty of a cupcake is that you get a good amount of cake with a good amount of icing, and you get to hold it in your hands like this. Just like the mini cupcakes, you get a slightly larger scoop. Now, when I was talking about sizes, this is slightly too big for these cases. It's just something that I figured out myself. So I slightly underfill the scoop. So when I scoop it out, I let a tiny amount fall out before I scoop it. So again, you don't have to do that depending on the size scoop you have. You may have a slightly smaller one, or you might be using bigger cases. And you can see how smooth the batter is too. And that is from melting the butter. And I also think it stops those like little butter explosions happening on cupcakes. You may see kind of uneven textures on top of your cupcake sometimes, and that's when the sugar and butter hasn't mixed in properly. When you melt the butter, it does, and therefore you get perfect cupcakes. So that is how you prepare your cupcake cases. Now obviously they're going to need different cooking time, so ideally you wouldn't really cook different size cupcakes at the same time to avoid opening and closing the oven. But the mini cupcakes, again, depending on your sized cakes that you're doing, These need about 8 to 12 minutes, so I'm going to check them at 8 minutes and maybe give them a turnaround. These take a little longer. I'm going to do about 12 to 15 minutes. On 180 degrees Celsius, I hesitated because my oven's really playing up at the moment, and when I program in 180, it reads about 200. So I actually type in 160 and it's kind of 180. Know your oven. Okay, so look how beautifully they have cooked. They're all the same golden brown colour. I rotated the tray halfway through the oven to make sure they cook evenly. They're all equal sizes, and the larger cupcakes have risen even more because they've had longer in the oven, and a beautiful golden brown colour. So while they're still hot, I'm going to soak them with my sugar syrup, which I've done a video about, but it's just equal measures of hot water and sugar with a little bit of vanilla. And I did do a video on how to make your own sugar syrup soaker, but I also found this gadget, which is a lifesaver, and you're all going to be obsessed, so I'm going to put the link below. And it's easy to do this while the cupcakes are firstly still hot, so they absorb more sugar, and still in the tray, because you'll see why. I just simply brush it over all the cupcakes, just so they get a little soaking, and this just keeps them moister for longer, if moist is a word. More moist for longer. Because essentially the cupcakes are smaller cakes, which means they can dry out quicker. And the bigger ones. Okay. And I'm going to leave them to cool completely before I ice them, because if you ice warm cupcakes, the buttercream will melt, and it's not very pretty. So what I've done here is I've made a batch of my American frosting, again, on the other video. I know it's annoying to link all the videos, but it's just so much more simple, and then I'm going to be doing other videos with more decorations, and as long as you know the basics, you can do anything. So I will still put the quantities below, but what I've done is actually divide it into 5, and I've coloured it in 5 different colours because I want to show you how to do a rainbow swirl, because why just keep it white? That's boring. I'm far from boring, so making it more colourful for you. So I've got green, purple, yellow, pink and blue. Just going to give them a mix just to make sure that the colours are fully mixed in, but also that no crust has formed, because if you leave American buttercream out, it forms a crust. Here I've got a lovely large piping bag with a 1M star nozzle. This is my favourite nozzle. It's a star shape and just is great for large cupcakes and small cupcakes, so I literally use this all the time. There are tons of nozzles, but I'm just going to show you how to do a simple swirl. I'm going to put it in the piping bag and push the nozzle right to the end. I haven't cut it open yet, because I only do that once the nozzle's at the end, because if you cut it too big, the nozzle will fall through. And it's easy to just glide your scissors around the nozzle. And I've done it below the points, otherwise the star doesn't pipe as well, if that makes sense. So when you take that end off, the whole shape is there. If you do it too shallow, you interfere with the shape. So then I twist it, and this is just my natural habit of filling a piping bag. If you're doing something with a more runny mixture, you don't want it to fall out. And apparently this prevents air bubbles too. And I've also got a large vase to put the piping bag in. Fold the top over. And this just makes it 10 times easier to fill up the piping bag, especially if you're doing multiple colours. Now, people use cling film for this if they want a rainbow effect. I've done it before, and it was a horrible mess, and I actually find it a lot harder. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to spread the 5 colours up the piping bag, and then when I close it, I can squeeze them all together and they come together. So let's start with the pink, and I'll just spread it up the side like this. And on to the next colour. So I'll go right next to it, and I'll try and start it from the same point. Obviously, if you're only doing one colour, just simply fill the piping bag. You don't need to spread out the sides for that. So once you've finished putting all your colours in, it will look a bit like this. And all I do is take it out the vase and carefully start guiding it down the piping bag and make sure that all the colours are touching each other. And try and squeeze down the colours so they all reach the end at the same time. What I also like to do is just test it before I go on to any cupcakes with a little swirl. And you can see that actually all the colours are coming out really nicely, so that is ready to use. Right, so cupcakes are cool, they're ready to ice, we've got our piping bag at the ready. I'm going to start with the mini cupcakes because I think it's good to perfect your swirl and it's just really good practice. So with the swirl, you basically want to do a kind of C shape and then finish it off with a flick. So you also want to apply quite a lot of pressure, not too much, not too little, which isn't very helpful, but some people don't push enough, and then you get a really flat swirl. I'll try my best to explain as I'm doing it. I start from the center, do the C shape, and then where I begin, I finish pushing and flick it off with a swirl. I'll show you again. C shape, back to where I start, and flick. And you can see those beautiful colours coming out as well. You get a really nice rainbow effect. And that is a perfect little swirl. So I'm just going to finish these off and then I'll show you for the larger cupcakes. And as I piped, all the colours became really visible and I achieved a really, really nice rainbow effect. So I'm really happy with these. They don't need to go in the fridge or anything. The American buttercream sets on its own unless it's really hot, and then yeah, put them in the fridge and you probably won't get very far if it's that hot either. Also, one more thing, the sugar syrup has kind of made the cupcakes stick to the tin, so I like decorating especially the mini ones while they're still in the tin so they don't move around so much. If you put it on a surface and try and decorate it without holding it, it's really difficult. So either in the tin or become a master so you can do it one-handed. So they're the mini ones. Similar technique with the larger cupcakes, but obviously you're covering a larger surface. So there are two types of swirls you can do. I'll start with what I like to call the Mr. Whippy. It's like those ice creams, and you literally do it exactly how you think you do it. You just keep going until you get a nice mound of icing, like this, around the outside, applying the same pressure, and just go on itself until the top, like that. Or you can do it the other way and start in the center and go round yourself like that, and you create a really nice rose effect like this. Start in the center, then work your way out. And it's obviously a lot flatter, but actually it's got a really lovely effect, and if you're adding more decorations, it's not too overwhelming. Also, I personally prefer this amount of icing to that one. You can also do 100 other designs, but another one that I love using this particular nozzle is the hydrangea flower. Now I will be uploading a cupcake floral tutorial at some point, but just to whet your taste buds, here's a little preview. Start in the center with a nice big blob, and then go around the sides just by pressing it and pulling away. So just creating the stars. And then once you've gone all the way around, go on top of that row, and then to the top. And you create a really nice flower effect. Kind of looks like a hydrangea. I wish they were that color though, it looks really beautiful. So there you have my simple cupcakes with a rainbow swirl icing, and also a little tutorial on how to use the 1M nozzle. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for all of those who requested this video. I know it's a simple one, but I think nail the foundations before you go on to bigger and better things. Also, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. It's just that button down there. I don't actually know what side we're on because I'm opposite, but it's the big red one, you can't miss it. hit that button. Every subscriber helps, and share the video and try them out as well. If you do, tag me on Instagram at George's Cakes because I love seeing your creations. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you soon.